in order to understand Nu Skin's history, which is what we're really going to talk about today, so that we can see where our future is going to be, we have to see where we're at today. Okay? So I kind of want to talk about Nu Skin today. Okay? Nu Skin this year should do about 1.5 billion in annual sales. I think we're open in 51 markets. Okay? Out of 137 countries, we're open in 51. So there's a huge opportunity. Now, some people, especially those of us that live in Utah, in my opinion, Nu Skin's grown kind of silently. Okay, tallest building in Provo, but we all just didn't really know what it was all about. Like, we knew it was some kind of network marketing, something or another. And if you ask people what do they know about Nu Skin, they say the products are great. Okay, but that was about the bottom of it all. I mean, I didn't really get what they were doing. So I want to talk about the principles of success that I believe Nu Skin became successful on. Does that make sense? And I believe that in any endeavor in business, okay, that if you were willing to do this, you'd be successful. And I don't believe that Nu Skin's the answer for everybody. Okay? And I welcome everyone's skepticism. For me, I can certainly argue the points, okay, that I'm sure Jay Taylor shared with you. But the bottom line is, I believe that if your mission is to do good in the world, that good things will happen to you. Okay? Some people call it karma, some people call it fate, some people call it, providence. However you want to term that, if you set out to do good in the world, you will probably be blessed. Okay? Does that make sense? Nu Skin, their whole entire mission is centered around the concept of being a force for good throughout the world. Okay? I want to tell you how we define that, because we see this building, it's this high-rise building, 10 some odd stories or whatever the case is, biggest building in Provo. But the bottom line is, it might be an impressive thing to say we do $1.5 billion as a company. There's many companies that are impressive. I want you to really not just look at the body of the company today, but understand its heart first. And then we can go back and see how it was assembled. Fair enough? Because it started with passion and it started with heart. It started with this concept to be a force for good. And I want to tell you how we don't just describe that in words, but how we live those principles. Fair enough? So follow me over here first. I'm kind of changing my board. In 2002, I think Nu Skin really had a chance to prove to themselves and to the world that they would put their money where their mouth was, and this be a force for good. And this is how we do this outside of the inner workings of Nu Skin. Okay? So here's the story. Blake Roney, who happens to be the chairman here, okay, and the founder of Nu Skin, with his older sister, or excuse me, his younger sister at the time, but his sister, okay, Nedra Roney, they basically came up with this idea to be a force for good. But in 2002, Blake Roney was approached. Okay, he was approached by somebody during the Winter Olympics, and this somebody basically said, hey, listen, I've got this great idea of basically having these manufactured meals that are healthy, that you can donate to starving children throughout the world, and would you be interested as a company in purchasing these meals and donating them to these kids? It's really kind of cool because our partner actually ships the meals directly, and he went on and explained the concept, and then a non-for-profit, 501c3, 90% of the money donated doesn't even need to go to the charity. You can keep it to run the place. Okay? So the bottom line is like, look, this meals go directly to these kids. Well, Blake loved it. Okay? He said, come visit me after the Olympics, come into my office. Within a matter of weeks, he bought the whole entire company. Okay? Then what he did is he went back and he had our scientists, we have 75 plus scientists, actually look at the ingredients and start to study malnourishment, okay? And how could we actually stop, okay, malnourishment? Well, so that you guys understand this, whenever you see these things on TV, I don't know if you're watching American Idol or whatever the case is, and you see these little pot-belly African kids or Vietnamese kids or Korean children, so you know, if you just simply give them grain, okay, if you give them corn, or if you give them wheat, or you give them oats, okay, they actually can't process that food and they die. Okay, most people didn't know that, but when you're malnourished, you need nourishment. And it can't just come in the forms of the things that we would typically buy and feed these children. So the bottom line is 95% of these children die with a full belly. Okay, they die because they don't have proper nourishment. So creating something that actually re-nourishes or nourishes the body is very, very, very critical. So this Vitamil pack is what our scientists formulated and created. Okay? Now, as distributors, we're able to donate these. Okay? They roughly cost $22. They feed a child for a month. Okay? Meal a day for a month. And we donate these meal packs to children as distributors. Since 2002, we've donated over 200 million meals as distributors. Now, I did the math on this the other day, and this is pretty amazing. At $22 for 30 days, okay, that works out to be $1.5 billion donated from people like you and I in just a matter of 8 years to starving children. That's pretty significant to me. Now, just to kind of bring it into perspective for you, have you ever heard of Malawi, Africa? I don't imagine that you would. But if you Google it, you'll find that it is one of the poorest countries in the world. You'll find that the third cause of death is malnourishment in children. And you'd also find that there's some odd like 14 to 16 million, that's the population of this country, and like 2 or 3 million orphaned children. Okay, so pretty serious place, pretty impoverished. Certainly none of us would have wanted that kind of a life. Okay? Last year, according to the New York Post, okay, these guys are world ranked, I think, like number 4 or 5 for childhood death, okay, due to malnourishment. Last year, according to the New York Post, not one child died of malnourishment. And they attributed that all to Nu Skin. So pretty big deal. We basically adopted this country, if you will, from a micro finance kind of a standpoint, teaching their farmers how to actually create the ingredients for these materials so that they can self-sustain, teaching them crop rotation. And basically the way these meals work, and they're distributed all throughout the world. Okay? Malawi just happens to be our pet project. Okay? If the child is in school, they're fed. If the child doesn't go to school, they're not fed. So it gives an incentive to mom and dad, instead of keeping them around the house doing whatever they're doing, here around the village, okay, working or farming, send them to school to become educated, which obviously we all know, okay, if we can perpetuate education, that's a serious thing. We can take people from a different level. So this is kind of what we've done. Now, this was such a kind of a revolutionary concept, if you will, and such a powerful thing to do as a company, kind of shows you where our heart is, as I mentioned in the beginning, that Lee Iacocca decided to chair our Nourish the Children Foundation. At that time, he was writing a book called Where Have All the Leaders Gone? Okay, and he was basically talking about corporate America and what it really meant to leave a legacy behind and do good in the world. And he used 2 full pages in his book to describe this mission and Blake Roney and Steve Lund. Okay? And Blake Roney, I think, said it best. He summed it up by saying, look, Nourish the Children may only be about 5% of what we do as a company, but it's 95% of who we are. So while you're thinking about this, ask yourself and ask the people that you would approach about Nu Skin, because this isn't for everybody, are these the kind of people that at the very, very core of who they are willing to give back? Does that make sense? And they want the world to be better because they were on that world. Okay? Now that gets a little bit out there, but I really truly believe, okay, that people don't embrace just money. Okay? And if they do just embrace money, because we're going to talk about that today, lots of money, okay, they'll live a very, 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 very shallow life, and it will ultimately destroy them. Kenton says it this way: money only makes you more of what you are. If you're a jerk, money will make you a bigger jerk. If you're a good person, money will only make you a better good person that can do better in the world. So that's kind of where we're at today and how we kind of got here. Now let's go back to the very, very humbly beginnings. And you can show